humerus. And again, we are starting from same moment. We have to know anatomical position to be able to identify structures. From very beginning, due to classification, which kind of bone is that? Long bone. Good. What do you remember? What is the same story about long bones? Absolutely. In the middle of the bone that is the shaft, and we have two ends, proximal and distal. Always in any long bone we have same parts, proximal end, shaft, distal end. Now when we are talking about proximal end of the humerus, we can see this main structure which is the head of humerus, and we know head of humerus articulates with the glenoid cavity of the scapula. So it's supposed to be direct which side? Medial side. Yeah, not left or right, but medial lateral. So medial side to articulate with the scapula. Now I can put this bone in such position when my head of humerus is medial side, or in such position when it's again medial side. Which one is correct? Which one is wrong? First one is correct. Why? Yeah, a lot of structures can help us, right? If we are looking at the same proximal end, what can help us? This greater tubercle is lateral side, up and lateral side, and lesser tubercle looks directly straight forward. Agree? Agree. If I look on the distal end, this deepest notch of the distal end, which is olecranon notch for olecranon of ulna, it locates backward. Agree? And of course, another structures can help us, but we will talk about that in a couple of minutes. Okay? So let's come back to our proximal end. So now we know the anatomical position. Now we are sure that this bone belongs to which side? Left side, absolutely. Can I articulate it with the scapula? Yes, I can. That's a way of articulation. That's the type of movements in the shoulder joint, right? Right. So, again, head of humerus, surrounded with this edge, which is anatomical neck. Just below this edge, we can see these two tubercles, greater and lesser. We mentioned about that. In between them, intertubercle sulcus. Yes. So, any idea which structure runs through this sulcus? It's tendon of long head of biceps. Exactly. So, long head of biceps, bicipital tendon runs through this sulcus. Good. Now, below the tubercles, surgical neck is present. And that's our first place of interest, because surgical neck of humerus, that's the most common place to fracture the humerus bone. And we already discussed with you that clinical problem. So surgical neck of humerus, when it is fractured, two structures could be in trouble. Axillary nerve and posterior circumflex humeral artery. Axillary nerve innervates deltoid muscle and teres minor muscle. Let's continue. Next, what is important about humerus? What is important about shaft? Two structures, please remember. Deltoid tuberosity lateral side, because again, we will articulate our shoulder joint like that. The deltoid muscle covers it from lateral side, so it inserts right over here in deltoid tuberosity, right? And another important structures, if I will turn my bone to the back, that's oblique in shape groove. That's what we name spiral groove or radial groove for the radial nerve. Radial nerve, that's the biggest nerve, the largest nerve of the brachial plexus, which runs behind of the upper limb and innervates most of muscles and skin from the back of the upper limb. For that we will come back later. And finally, distal end. What is important about the distal end? This structure on the distal end, we have to articulate with two bones forearm with the ulna and radius. And we keep in mind always that ulna has medial position. So this medial part, we named it trochlea. So this part is for articulation with ulnar bone. This distal part, it is round in shape. We named it capitulum, and it is for articulation with the head of radius. And again, it's correct because radius keeps lateral position in between bones of the forearm. All this structure together, trochlea for ulna plus capitulum for the radius, we name this condyle. So two structures together, we can name the condyle. You okay, guys? Now, above the trochlea, we can see the depression. That is
Cubital fossa.
no coronoid fossa. Coronoid fossa, because of the name of process of ulna, which enter these fossa during the flexion. So, coronoid process of ulna enters the coronoid fossa. Now, this very small depression here above the capitulum, it's not just a radius fossa, exactly. So, behind, we mentioned that already, that's the deepest fossa of the distal end, olecranon fossa, where we expect olecranon process of ulna in extension movement. So now I'll try to show you. That's our same side ulna. That's ulna coronoid process. That's ulna olecranon process. In flexion, coronoid process enters coronoid fossa. In extension, olecranon process enters olecranon fossa. Can you see that? Okay, perfect. So next, two another structures. And again, we mentioned this part, entire name is condyle. Above of it, we have two epicondyles. Epi means above. Everything which is above, we will name epi. Okay? So, and just orientate you with the side. Again, that is our left side humerus. So that's our medial epicondyle. It's our lateral epicondyle. Medial epicondyle usually much bigger than the lateral one. And finally, based on your knowledge of these distal end structures, we have to talk about two another places for the fractures. So, the first, like the third, if we will calculate from the beginning, the third possible place is above of the condyle, and we named it supracondylar fracture. This fracture is very common for which age?
Young children.
For children, exactly. That is the common fracture for children. Any idea why?
Epiphyseal plates.
Absolutely right. That's the epiphyseal plate on this side in children, which is still very good developed and softer than the bone structures. So that's a common place for the fracture. In this fracture, which elements we expect to be injured? Median nerve and
Radial nerve.
no,
Ulnar artery.
and brachial artery.
Brachial artery.
So, in which place of fracture we do expect radial nerve to be injured? Exactly. Remember, the radial nerve group is behind of the shaft of the humerus. So, in mid-shaft humerus fracture, we do expect radial nerve to be injured and deep brachial or profunda brachial artery to be injured. So, always two structures.
Repeat that one more time, please.
Yeah, one more time. If we're coming from very beginning. Surgical nerve, axillary nerve, posterior circumflex humeral artery. Mid-shaft humeral fracture, radial nerve, and deep brachial artery or profunda brachial artery. Supracondylar fracture, median nerve, and brachial artery. And finally, we have to mention one more fracture. It's a valsional fracture of the medial epicondyle. And for that, We have to remember only one structure which runs behind of the medial epicondyle, that's the ulna nerve.